Welcome to Subramani. Please subscribe, please hit the bell icon. Long ago, this is a story of perhaps the 1990s or early 2000. One big bank, now a very big bank, asked me whether I will help them set up their library. That was before, I think, or just around. I think that was much before I wrote my book also. But I used to read a lot, and so that person asked me, "Will I set up a library?" I said, "I'll set up a library on two conditions: that any book that I recommend, you will buy 3 copies. One I will read, and 2 will be available in your office. And some kid in your office who is about 25 years or younger should read that book and make a book summary which should be available online to everybody. So if somebody wants to read any book, then a book summary should be available which they should have created. And if you do all this," I said, "I am willing to set up your library, and I'll not charge you any fees because you would have given me 1 copy of all the books that I think should be there in your library. So I'll set up my library too." And they thought it was a good idea, but they could not find enough volunteers to read the book and make book summaries. I said, "If you can't deliver that, then it's not worth creating a library, because nobody seems to be interested in reading." Which turned out, then they went and bought. I gave them a list of books to buy. All that they bought, they nicely put them in plastic covers, and it used to lie in the library. I have no clue what has happened to the library. UTI Capital Markets, as it used to be called, then name changed. Now it's NISM had a very good library when they were at Vashi. I'm sure that the library must have improved once they moved to Patal Ganga. But this is not about libraries, this is more about reading. Reading is one of the most exaggerated things, in the sense that reading is good, make no mistake. Like, I think Charlie Munger, who said, "I don't know any wise man who does not read all the time." I completely agree with Charlie Munger, but the question is, what do you read? Should you just read any drivel, any nonsense that comes your way? Should you watch any video that comes your way? There are some influencers videos who might just have banned. They just cannot come onto my timeline. I just don't want to watch, right? But I still can't stop people from watching that, sending me a link and saying, "What do you think about this? What do you think about what this fellow is saying?" I have no clue. I just delete it. I will not watch. There are 2-3 things which I find that reading is good, and I have, my house would be full of books. My house was more like a library. 2-3 walls were full of books. And books on everything: Arthur Ailey, Irving Wallace, Harold Robbins, James Hadley Chase, Alistair MacLean, Louis Lama. All kinds of books used to be there, and my dad and my dad's younger brother were both big readers, and both of them would spend a lot of money on buying books. So yes, I had access to all these books. I have read it, and then at some stage I realized that no point in reading fiction like Alistair MacLean. Great book, it is fantastic, you enjoy it when you are in class 8, but beyond that you realize that it is not adding too much value. So you'd rather pick up a Shackleton's Ways rather than an Alistair MacLean, because there was a real life adventure story. So I've read adventure stories, I've read autobiographies. Charlie Chaplin, I remember. I've read Mein Kampf, I've read Ramayana, Mahabharata, all kinds of books. But I still think reading is exaggerated. What you should do, especially if you're a young person, is, apart from reading, when you read a book, take a notebook and start writing what you learned in that book. And please remember that you can skim through a book very quickly, maybe in 15-20 minutes, half an hour, and then decide which chapters to read. You can just give up books halfway. You can give up books after reading 2-3 chapters and realizing it is shit. It happened to me. The author, I think, was Shobha Day. Her first book, I bought it in, I think, Kurla station. I was going to Shirdi, so which means I must have been going up to Nasik or Kasara, whatever. And I did not care. I decided to abandon the book in the train itself. I thought, let somebody else not waste money buying this book. After that, I have not read a single book by Shobha De. So you form your views very quickly, and it's not as though I was expecting to find great quality in Shobha De, but this was absolute crap. So I didn't read. It's nothing to find fault. I'm sure she's a bestseller. She's selling a lot of books. That's not an issue. Also, I think you should not read too much on political views if you think you're reading about the market. If you want to read about the market, read about the market. Read Phil Fisher, read Ken Fisher, read Graham, right? Read Buffett, whatever, or what is written about Buffett. Don't read blogs which are political in nature, because then they create a bias. If Kamala comes, then market will crash. If Donald Trump comes, market will crash. If Modi wins, democracy will be finished. He will not hold an election again. This is all nonsense. It keeps clouding your head. So go and read the classics. Don't read what is being said today about what is the current state of the market, what is happening. Don't read market commentary. Don't read somebody who says in 3 months the market will touch so much, and in 6 months market will touch so much, or in 10 years market will do this, or now is the time to buy pharma, now is the time to buy cement. Stop reading projections, stop reading predictions. They don't really matter. They are mostly nonsense. Also, you should not read books on F&O and things like that. If you are a real long-term investor, you don't need this. So people say, no, you are not understanding. I need some kind of a risk reduction. You don't. It just means you have not understood F&O, so just stay away. So some things cannot be learnt by just reading, right? You have to learn F&O. Maybe you have to attend some course. Maybe you have to talk to somebody and see how it happens, and then understand the real nature of how F&O happens. So I think reading is exaggerated. People read too much. People read too much of nonsense, drivel, gossip. How does gossip really help? How does it help whether an actress has a kid, doesn't have a kid, whether she's married, not married? What is the point in reading such stuff, right? So don't read such drivel. Don't read too much of financial advice, come political advice, right? Be careful about that. Be positive. Also understand that the literature today you have, even on investments, is written largely, maybe 80-90% by American authors. And America in the last 70 years or 80 years made money by I think controlling UN, controlling world opinion, controlling UN aid, controlling UN trade, right? Controlling all the narratives. If you go slightly prior to that, how Europe created wealth was Europe went and looted Asia and Africa. So those routes for creating wealth today do not exist for India. Therefore, it do not exist for you as an investor in India. So you have to find new ways, new paths. So reading history is useful, but to think history will happen the same way that it happened, that history will rhyme, but you do not know how often. Right, so some things which you have heard, like, oh, market will always come up. Market will always come up means market has always come up in the last 80 years of American dominance, and we are reading American literature. We are not reading literature where the stock exchange just vanished, right? If stock exchanges in India, let's say stock exchange in India vanishes, I will be down to my last rupee, because a lot of my money, at least 80-90% of my money is in equities, right? So be ready for such things, be ready for such catastrophe, but far more important is not what you read, it's what you understand and how much you implement. So if you have a notebook where you're making notes about what you're reading and you're implementing, or you're seeing how it gets implemented, or you're saying, oh, this is what the book says, but this is what is happening in real life India today in 2020 or 23 or 24, whenever you're reading the book, or 26, whenever you're reading the book, see whether it is practical, whether it can be implemented. Also, when you read a book, when you pick a book, it does not mean you should read it cover to cover. I buy a book, I read it, and sometimes I don't like it, and sometimes I like it so much that I finish it in one sitting, and then sometimes I even give away the book. If the book is a political book on, I remember Half Line, a book about Narasimha Rao, very well written, superbly written book. I bought it, read it, somebody came home and said, how is this book? I just said, okay, keep it as a gift. Don't accumulate books. This bookshelf is a big mistake. Never accumulate books, because then you'll say, I'll read it later, and that later never comes. So buy books, read them, give them away. If you think the book is worth rereading, keep it. Not all books are worth rereading. Definitely political commentaries are not worth reading. Sometimes autobiographies are not worth rereading. So pick up books on all genre. That does not really matter. I had access to Harold Robbins when I was in class 10 or class 11, or class 8 perhaps. All those books were available at home. It does not mean that you should not read stuff like Harold Robbins or Irving Wallace or Arthur Haley. Read it, understand it, give it away. Don't keep it. These books don't have any repeat value. Graham's books have repeat value. Fisher's book have repeat value. So those books you keep, read, make notes, understand, implement, right? The reading is exaggerated. Understanding, making notes, implementing is not appreciated enough, and therefore we think, oh, reading is important and that's enough. That's not enough. That's just the beginning. And when you process a book like this, you will read less. So be choosy. You can read any novel or whatever else you want. Today I can do that, but I think I prefer the classics. Therefore, not so much of blogging, not so much of YouTube watching. There is just too much shit happening in the world today, and all that is coming into your head. You cannot fill your head with lot of sawdust, hoping that one day when you need to put furniture in, this sawdust will go away. The sawdust won't go away. Will stick to that. Just cleaning it is not going to be very easy. Be careful about what you read, how much you understand, and how you implement. I mean, read about health, read about wealth, read about philosophy, read about Shankaracharya, read about Allah. All that is fine, but understand that some things are real, pure, unadulterated shit which you should not be reading. Excuse me for using the word shit. I could not think of a better word to describe some of the nonsense that is happening today in the world, in the world of blogging, in the world of YouTube, in the world of books, right? So be careful about what you read. Thank you.